Now this morning we have what I hope is going to be a very interesting day, maybe a very short day. That of course is always a possibility in my life. But we made a connection with our friend Thomas Luciano, who I put he has an issue with the wheel. He's restoring an old Kawasaki. The wheel is totally corroded. I have a small sandblaster he might want to borrow. We're trying to make a connection without ever realizing he has an ability to cut these stencils out that we use on his computer. Bingo! I see a match made in heaven here, you know? Anyway, that's the whole purpose of years and years ago, and I know everybody that's been part of the A-team wants to be part of the A-team, or if you've dropped out of the A-team and gone on to bowling or fishing or something, we don't really hold it against you. But here's the good thing. Thomas is a modeler too. So if I can get him to come down here with his wheel, I can kind of evaluate it. I can show him my modeling museum from my career in modeling. And he maybe can cut some decals for us, and maybe I can help him out with his wheel. That's kind of the whole purpose of the A-team. But the biggest thing is to share the information, which we try to do on these videos every day. Share the pictures, like Dallas out there in California riding around on the GS. Dallas, I wish I was out riding today. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a riding day. It's going to be a work day. We're going to try to get some parts buffed out in the cellar. Once those parts are done, that's the watershed, and then we're going to come out and take the wheels off. So, or in this case, I haven't decided whether to just take the back wheel off, and I'll have another day to think about it. But getting these parts buffed out, if we can get that done today before the day ends, wow, big watershed. So we'll try to share that information and keep everybody advised of how other people's projects are coming along, because we all have a passion for the same thing, these old motorcycles. Keeping them running, keeping them shiny, keeping them that we can ride them. And just the other day I was out on this bike and riding, and I was just thinking, wow, life is good. By the way, life is good. Anyway, I hope your life is good too. Well, let's get down to shop and go to work. Now by this time tomorrow, I hope to be working on the wheel. Maybe we'll start with the rear wheel. I'm trying to think this through. I'm not real good early in the morning until I have my coffee. But it's a fact. I've painted a lot of wheels. I've painted a lot of wheels for other people. It's always labor intensive, and at the end of the job, it's always so worth it. And even a relatively simple job like an RD wheel, which you can do almost a couple of days, always so worth it to me. Now the complex wheels, well, a little more labor intensive, a little more time. Some of these are hand buff. The ones on the FCR are hand buff. They really are. Then they go into that area of being a labor of love. But I think, Thomas, if you're a modeler, you know all about the labor of love. And these wheels that we do, they're going to be really, I think they're a really attractive wheel when they're all sanded and buffed and painted. And with that gold paint, I think they're just going to be awesome. So the thing Thomas said is, and he's going to work with John Pothier on this, tentatively anyway, maybe we can rope him into doing it, is he knows all about the Oracal material, and he thinks his machine can cut this. He has the ability to cut it. It'll add a nice dimension to what we can do with the equipment we already have, and that Thomas already has. Now in the world of model planes, you almost always have friends that help you with certain parts of the build, because it's so labor intensive to build the planes. But in motorcycling, you realize it's a different world. You can buy things, you can pay people to do it, but in the end, there's no substitute that I've ever found for just doing it yourself. You know it's done right, and all the money you save, you can buy a lot of gefilte fish. So it's back to being cold again. We had that real one day of nice riding, and it's back to having to clean a pond out every morning. Finally back in the house, pond clean, the bikes are oogled, we're ready to go to work. So after a quick cup of coffee, I am really excited about it. Now here's what we have to do. All the parts that are down on this bench, these are parts that are finished, buffed, ready to put back on a motorcycle. Every one of them is ready. So the next thing, and it's the only thing left of the parts that are here, is to get these 2000 grit sanded today and buffed out, and hopefully not need, and the last day that I put the last coat of clear on there, the thing that was so good is the clear, the day we did it, the wind wasn't blowing at all, and There's almost no dust in there, so it should be a really nice buff out today. I'm so excited about this. But I get excited about all this stuff. And you know what? Maybe you do too, and maybe you don't even realize it. But having a one-of-a-kind custom motorcycle, I find that to be very, very, very enjoyable. And very inexpensive relative to buying a brand new bike. So step one, we're going to get out some 2000 grit Rhino Wet, some soapy water, and we should make short work of getting this part sanded out. There shouldn't be a lot of big giant flaws because we've already sanded out the basic base coats of clear. So the big thing as always is I want to do one little spot. We'll make this not a real big spot either. In real time, 2000 grit it totally flat. Most of this is going to have to be done by hand. There's only a certain amount I can do with the block, the big flat areas. And once this is all flattened down, we'll be ready to compound it out with that 4CR product. And we have had really exceptional good luck doing that. That has just been one of the finds of doing a lot of experimenting with a lot of different products over a very long amount of time. And the easiest of all things, now the rules of engagement, the paint, the longer I let this dry, the better. I think this is dry in 3 or 4 days, but it's, when I've tried to do it the next day or even 2 days after it, I'm always disappointed in how long it takes to get the shine to come up. And then I say, why didn't I just let it sit up by the heating vent for another couple days? Well, what I want to do is I want to get to the watershed in this project where this is now going to be on that table of parts ready to put back on a motorcycle, and then we'll be ready to start on the wheels. And very conveniently, that Thomas is interested in doing some wheels, and maybe there's some other people who want to do wheels. I wish I could motivate Turbo Steve to do the wheels on the little 250, but he's already winning these shows now, so why would he bother? So that's a pretty close look at what... Now, a lot of people are always afraid to grab sandpaper when something is nice and shiny. And boy, those letters came out really nice. But now, I know I'm going to have to get around here by hand, around here, in all these areas. I'm going to be very careful not to go through. Very important. Because I don't want to put any more clear on this if I can possibly help it. This has the right amount of clear on it that I'll be able to buff and clean it and for many, many years to come. Kind of difficult about this individual part is there's an awful lot of places where you have to get your finger down in the valley to get that to be flat. I want to try to avoid, if even to the point of leaving it shiny, that mountaintop, the exact mountaintop, because that's where, once we're using a buffer, that's where it's going to tend to go right through. And I'd like to avoid that, of course. So any of these very highly curved areas, well, it just takes a little more time when you do it by hand. But all of these jobs that we do, they're labor intensive, but they really don't cost a lot of money. But when you're done, it's always hard to convince people that you spend X amount of hours. Yeah, and there's times it's boring that, whatever, I'm watching 2 televisions at the same time here, and I'm listening to a bebop on the radio and everything, and Karen's bringing me down coffee. So this time is not painful for me. I look forward to it and I enjoy it. But it just does take a lot of time. You can't think, well, I'll be done with that in 10 minutes or something. Because like everything worth having in life, just takes time. And I've done a couple of these, the block and this one in real time, just to show, give some people an idea of how much is involved. And we'll do the rest of this off camera. The rest of it is just going to go for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. Now, I was very careful not to go across any of the sharp edges. And so you can see right here, the edges, I don't want to have any of those where the paint is real thin, and I'll have a tendency as years go by to wear out the paint on the corners. That's pretty much ready for buffing. Okay, now the polish we found worked real well, and we have had super good luck with this. The 4CR 8065. We've also had really good luck with these, and they're inexpensive enough that the terry cloth and they're really inexpensive, the palm buffer, palm sander. You see they come 2 in a pack here. I don't want to throw the wrong one away. And by the way, they're really good if you're shampooing your doll. You can put the doll's head in here and keep the doll from... I'm losing my mind here. But anyway, these really do work pretty good. Whenever I'm doing any final buffing where I know I want it to be as good as I possibly can, get one of these new pads on. They're a little bit difficult to stretch on when they're new, but stretch them out. And it seems like over the years I've found a lot of ways to make it hard. This is the only way I've found, one of the only ways to make it easy. Don't fool around. Get a new pad, get the right compound, use that Indasa sandpaper, and I think you'll minimize the amount of labor, and you'll probably thank me. Not really. All right, we're ready. We're ready to go. I've started by wiping everything down. Gives us a little compound, a little bit of a head start on the whole project. And from this point on, I just got to take my time. A lot of it's going to have to be done by hand. I'd say 3/4 of it can be done with the buffer. I always like to do one little spot in real time, just to give some indication of how much time it takes to do this. It really is no secret. We've done it over and over again. And I hope the idea here, the biggest single thing, is not to go on any of the sharp edges with the buffer and buff through. Because we hope the last buff out we have here, we hope at the end of the day we'll be at our watershed and we'll be ready to move on with those wheels. I'm excited about it. I'm sure Thomas is excited about it too. Nothing makes a bike look cooler than just a nice set of wheels. And I remember when Jose had the last V-Strom that had the gold wheels. Oh, I would have loved to steal those wheels and put them on my RD. They were beautiful wheels. Anyway, not to belabor the point, but the one thing I wouldn't want to do is just hold the buffer in one spot. I want to move it around a little bit. And the other thing, don't do it like it's the hood of a car, back and forth. You want to kind of just do it. I'm just trying to give a little example that might make it a little bit easier for you. But the whole idea is just to get some idea of how long it takes, and I wanted to do it in real time again. No camera cuts, no fake stuff. And I got to get a new microfiber here. This one's all full of goop. But you can get some idea of what that looks like. And we'll basically have about an hour, hour and a half to finish the whole part. Most of it with the buffer, but some by hand. Now this is the part that's always extra time consuming, is down in all these valleys. You really can't get a buffer in there anyway. And you've got to do it by hand. Luckily, the 4CR buffs out beautifully by hand. A little more effort, a little more work. All of these little narrow areas here, they're the delicate, the edges. I'm trying not to go through on any edge. So far so good, but of course, until I'm done, so far so good is not a be-all end-all, that's for sure. But all these little edges and ridges here, I'll detail this part out as long as it takes. And when I'm done, it's very satisfying to get to this point. Now, the only problem is, Karen has just told me we need to go to the veggie market. So I'll take now that's a good thing to do, is to take a break in between parts, because then you don't rush. That's a big important thing to understand. Look at how these letters came out. If you start rushing, or if you're in having some kind of a race, nice the letters came out. Wow. I just don't like doing any of this work when I have to be done at a certain time. But I do like to keep a nice pace like we have today. And we may get the second part done, I don't know. But as always, there's always more things going on in the shop than meets the eye. And the final boss, the final say, the final vote is always Karen. Well, it just turned out pretty good. The first part is buffed. Maybe a few little touch-up spots. I'll see when I take it out and look at it at the end of the day, but overall that looks like it came out really, really good. But it's vegetable time. We eat a lot of vegetables in this house. We go to vegetable market almost every day. Always good to take a break. Boy, there's a hard lesson to learn when you have a long job like this. And this may not even get done today, I don't know. You never know when you go shopping with Karen. So this day today, it looks like the plans have totally changed, and Karen has decided we're going to do some of our errands today. Maybe a very short day, but this is the main thing, the farmer's market. We need to fill up this van with vegetables. So if you were wondering how at 74 I don't look a day over 80 and feel like 90, there's the answer. The farmer's market. Eat vegetables and buff, and you'll look young forever. Maybe not. Hey birds, do you eat enough vegetables? Or does Wendy feed you nothing but seeds? That El Cheapo just feeds you seeds. Ah, I love my birds. They keep me such good company. Time to get back to work. Well, this day took a lot of unexpected turns, but there's one thing that's always predictable in my house. Nothing a good cup of coffee won't straighten out. So we do have a little bit more work to do on that fairing, but we're not going to get to do the second piece today. Now this is the part that always takes a lot of time, and that's why I'm glad I had this little vegetable break. Because now, rather than skip over this step or try to rush through it, I can take my time. And I'm going to do all the edges, all the corners, all of the little spots that I cannot do conveniently with a buffer. And this part, it just takes time. And once you resign yourself to the fact that it's going to take time, and in this case, because the day got changed, it actually got changed more than once. What's good about it is I like to try to stay flexible. I like every day being different. I don't like as if we were working in a coal mine here or something, we had to wait till the whistle blows. I like having that flexibility, but I also like at the end of every, like I call it a break, we go in shopping, and we did a couple other things, buying vegetables. We eat so many vegetables. I'm going to turn into a banana one of these days. But anyway, it's keeping me alive, believe it or not. But getting all these edges, it's going to take time, and I'm not going to rush it through because I don't want to I'd rather have one part done, they're really nice and really in the bank, than have a bunch of stuff done. And when I put the motorcycle together, I'm going to be sorry I didn't spend this time. So there's always I see a little spot here that's dull. The lettering is perfect. I'm basically looking for little spots. Now I could do this too while let me just grab the buffer. If I see a little spot here, it's very easy to do this right now. Once you put the motorcycle together, you skip over stuff. I want to have it perfect on the day I put it together. Then after that, all bets are off. Once Luciano takes a ride on a bike and runs through a mud puddle. Hey, speaking of Luciano, he got his new bike. I can't wait to get up there and see it. Maybe in the next couple days, but we have a lot of stuff going on in the house here, so I try not to rush. There's just so many hours in the day and so many days in the week, and I like to send out a little video to my friends every day what's going on in my life. It's a nice way to keep track of each other. Nice way to keep the interest in motorcycling up. Anyway, but I do have another half an hour here or stuff. I know there's a spot up here I have to do. I will address all of these, and that'll probably end the day, and I will be thrilled that the only part I have left before we do the deconstruction is going to be the other side. Now I want to finish up this day with putting a nice coat of FLITZ on. The FLITZ gives it about 6 months of protection, and I can use the big buffer on this because I have a dedicated pad for FLITZ polish. Well, we really put a lot of effort into this part. Tomorrow, one more to go. And I would always rather have one part done extremely nice. This is absolutely flawless. This is ready to put back on the bike. And if it takes an extra day, you know, just eat vegetables and you'll live longer, that's all. Great way to put it. Boy, I just think every day that goes by, I get more and more excited about putting this guy back together. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you eat your vegetables. And thanks for watching.